Delta,
Blue,
and you just saw ParaDox versus Yugi and Joe. If you didn't just see it, click right here and watch it. But now we're going to be showing you ParaDox's decks.
So like we said, in the intro video to that duel, the intro to the wave, if you have no idea what we talked about because you're watching this video weeks or months or years after it debuted, you missed a lot of stuff. So if you saw the intro to the wave, we explained how the two characters have the same deck, just like we did with Lumis Numbra, for the sake of being able to create a 40-card deck that worked and played smoothly by combining each of their separate cards into one deck. So we're going to deck profile both of them together, even though the deck is one and the same for each character. So not that it really matters, but I have Para's deck.
And I have Dox's.
So we're going to go through and show you how we built the ParaDox Brothers decks.
First card up, 3 Dungeon Worm. So, I mean, not much more to say here. It's a vanilla, like a lot of the monsters in Duelist Kingdom. They had this one tunneling under the labyrinth. Obviously, if you watch that video with their decks, we can't play with any kind of labyrinth setup. It's not possible.
And it's unlikely that you would see us do anything. It's like the Deck Masters. They're a lot of fun in the anime, but something tricky to work around in real.
Yeah, it's hard to recreate. Those who are familiar with Dune might observe, like a lot of other worms, this might be slightly based off of Dune. But it's 1800 attack, pretty solid monster. I mean, it's better than Yugi just thrown out like Feral Imp or Beaver Warrior. But yeah, they dropped this. Then we have Labyrinth Tank.
So, of course, with catches your eye, it's a fusion monster, but just like Flame Swordsman, it was played like a normal monster in the anime. Hence, that little white errata sticker that we have on a lot of our cards is telling you that we're playing with it with an other than Konami effect, which means it's normal monster.
Like always, you can check our errata document. In there includes all the erratas for cards, and it includes our rules for Duelist Kingdom gameplay. It's not relevant for the deck profile, but just good to know. All on the errata list. Then we have 2 Labyrinth Wall.
We went with 2 to help balance out the deck. 3,000 is a lot in Duelist Kingdom.
Not a lot of ways around cards sometimes for players.
And despite it being their signature card, it wasn't something that was heavily... It was...
Used to make the Labyrinth, that's about it.
Right. It contributed to the Labyrinth itself, but it wasn't something that, did as much in the game. So it's interesting how this card was there, but also not there.
By the way, I'm sure some of you guys are happy that we're not going to be rhyming. Blue's not going to finish or end my sentence. 3 Monster Tamer. Same attack as Dungeon Worm. In the anime, this let them boost a monster's attack. But
yeah, no.
Yeah, sort of like weird stuff like Giant Soldier Stone with the moon, or the Castle Dark Illusions.
Sword Stalker was in effect.
Sword Stalker. We don't play with a lot of the like really weird things because they didn't have rules in Duelist Kingdom and they just like made stuff up. We don't play with that. But 3 Monster Tamer.
Now on to the effect monsters, the head honcho himself.
Gate Guardian.
So
my Gate Guardian!
We didn't change anything about it. It's fine. Summon it from the hand.
Same stats, I'm pretty sure, so it's a very faithful recreation by Konami. If you can get this out, like Blue Eyes Ultimate is not bad in Duelist Kingdom. A lot of decks don't have, a lot of answers. Like there's Mirror Force, sure, Detonate, Chasm of Spikes, but there's not always answers for Gate Guardian.
Yeah, and unlike the anime where he lost attack points by losing pieces, ours, no.
There's no way. Again, it's one of those weird small things that there's no point in us including. We just really want to build decks that are faithful and play by as regular Yu-Gi-Oh rules as possible. We're not really looking to include all the weird small stuff of Duelist Kingdom.
And every card in this deck, again, being a deck that has fewer cards than normal as far as what was played, even combining the 2 of them, no card is in less than 2 quantities, but many cards, of course, as you've seen, are in 2 or 3 quantities. Yeah. We do not have a nice, unique card deck like, say, Yugi's. But it does not stop this deck from being actually really cool. It's something, again, you guys have been requesting for a while, and we've heard you. We're finally at the point that we were ready to, move on with Duelist Kingdom. So, next up.
2 Kazijin.
So, the errata sticker on Kazijin is going to be the same thing for Sangha and Suijin. that their printed effect says they can reduce the attack of an attacking monster to 0. So now we give them the full damage of whatever the attack point is of whichever of the 3 pieces is.
Yeah, which means in Duelist Kingdom rules, the opponent's taking 2,400, 2,500, 2,600, which will wipe out all the 2,000 life points. It's just not practical to play that way. And 8,000 life points is fine, but for our purposes, we just can't do that. And that's not what their effect was in the anime anyway. So we added their effect close to the anime effect, where it's just negating an attack. It makes sense. It works. There's no drop of 2,000 life points because your monster attack is reduced to 0.
So yeah, the anime had more effects that they could be set in the spell and trap card zone, which is what we kind of saw in the anime, where they were just placed in those little box thingies.
Yeah.
They could only be placed if the other 2 pieces... So they could only be summoned if the other 2 pieces were set face down. Again, that stuff we have cut out. We are not going to play by those rules, so you can summon any one of them at any moment. We have just, however, changed their attack reduction effect to an attack negation effect to help round out and curve out the the meta we've now created for Duelist Kingdom.
It's not practical to include the weird box in the spell and trap card zone effect.
It would only help to limit the summoning of the monsters, but that's not something we were as worried about. So, speaking of summoning monsters,
Jirai Gumo, which they played as a trap card hidden in a labyrinth. We left Jirai Gumo as is, as fine as, a summonable monster in Duelist Kingdom. The life point drawback, is it drastic? Yeah. Does it make a big difference? Not really. Like always, we need to just look at what's practical. And with Duelist Kingdom being so convoluted sometimes, and this being played as a trap card in the maze, which we cannot do, we just felt it was simplest to keep the card as is. And there are 3, and I cannot pick up cards.
So there's piece number 2, Sanga of the Thunder. Again, the attack stats are different between each of them, but they all have the same change effect. So again, it's going to be listed together for all 3 of them. We're not going to put each one separately in the document as having that same effect. They're just going to be listed together.
Yeah, just keep it simple. I always found it interesting that Sanga had the most attack of the 3 pieces and becomes basically the head of Gate Guardian. Just interesting. 3 Shadow Ghoul. So while I never summoned this monster, in the anime, they made Wall Shadow by using polymerization to fuse Shadow Ghoul with Labyrinth Wall. And Labyrinth Wall still stayed as the wall on the field. It was just super weird. Cool, yes. For our purposes, doesn't make sense.
Yeah, again, there's... The Ghoul had a lot of cool things going for it as far as the way the Labyrinth was constructed. So he basically put the monster into the wall.
Yeah.
Great concept, totally impractical for this.
Yeah.
So it's included as its own thing, and as you'll see later on, yes, we still have Wall Shadow. So
yeah, obviously we had to include Wall Shadow. But this means you'll see Shadow Ghoul being summoned, whereas they didn't summon it, they fused it. A card they played, this is the only thing that makes sense.
And he still has an effect, so that will still come into play as well.
Yeah, this can actually be decent in their deck. And then we saw Shadow Ghoul actually played by Rebecca later. Then we have Suijin. So this is the 3rd of the Gate Guardian pieces, so to speak, if we want to call them that. Same thing, Erastic or same effect. Here is Wall Shadow. So like we were saying with Shadow Ghoul, we didn't add this to make it a fusion. That's just impractical. What we did was left it with its effect. I mean, Konami actually did a pretty good job of making Wall Shadow work by using Magical Labyrinth along with Labyrinth Wall instead of polymerization. Fairly similar. You need to get Magical Labyrinth along with Labyrinth Wall. You equip Labyrinth Wall with Magical Labyrinth, and then you send it to the graveyard to summon Wall Shadow. Unlike in their duel, there's no need to keep Labyrinth Wall in the field. We don't need it to become our Labyrinth. So it's fine to send Labyrinth Wall to the graveyard and replace it with Wall Shadow.
Which has the same
defense.
Anyway.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Really, really good job with implementing that effect. Because all Magic Labyrinth did in the anime was shift around the Labyrinth, which couldn't be played if you don't have an actual Labyrinth. So this actually, the way it was printed on Magic Labyrinth Wall Shadow, makes a lot of sense. And then 3 Wicked Worm Beasts.
So it was not really a monster that they used so much as it was used in the demonstration.
Yeah, so they had it for the
the-
purposes of the demonstration.
And that's one of those cards where, it could be up in the air and debatable if it's really one of their cards or a card they have for demonstration. But again, to help get the deck to a nice 40 cards, and not using triplicate of too many cards that we wanted to help balance out. Again, it's included in to help round out the deck, and it's not that we wanted to avoid picking cards for this deck that weren't played at all. We've done that in some cases. This is a deck we want to really avoid that. And again, we're ultimately very happy with the ratios, with the cards that we used. It really feels like their decks.
Yeah, and for some who might say, why 3 Wicked Worm Beasts but only 2 Labyrinth Wall or only 2 Suijin, Kaijin, etc.? Those are their more important monsters. Like Blue was saying, there's cards we wanted to. We don't want 3 of every single piece in both characters' decks.
Balancing. We can never emphasize enough. And again, we're not saying all of our changes are completely balanced, but more so than 3 Gate Guardian, 3 of all the pieces.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw either Para or Dox have the pieces of Gate Guardian. We didn't see like both of them have Suijin or both of them have Sango Thunder. So we didn't want both decks to have 3 of each. Labyrinth Wall, again, the same thing. It's sort of that thing. We didn't want to see too many copies of cards like that, of powerful cards. Moving on to the spells, we have 3 Invigoration. So, 3 Invigoration, it's limited in the fact that it only equips to Earth monsters, which is a lot of monsters, but definitely not any of the 3 pieces. Yeah, you're really talking Monster Tamer, Dungeon Worm, the Wicked Worm Beast you could,
Jiraigumo.
Labyrinth Wall you could, and Jiraigumo, yeah. Jiraigumo, Monster Tamer, Dungeon Worm are probably the 3 you'll aim to.
It's a humble 400. So again, it really works with the weaker monsters or Jiraigumo, which has that very, very heavy drawback, should you call it wrong.
And yeah. It's a good boost though. Sometimes this is all you need to get over an opponent's strong monster. 3 Magical Labyrinth, like we said.
So even though there's 3 Magical Labyrinth, 3 Wall Shadow, and only 2 Labyrinth Wall, so you won't be able to summon every single Wall Shadow. But if you draw one, you couldn't summon it anyway because it can only be summoned from the deck. What this does, though, is help increase the consistency of seeing a Wall Shadow by seeing more Magical Labyrinths, but being balanced out still with the number of Labyrinth Walls.
Exactly. So you're not going to have too many Labyrinth Walls, but this gives you a good chance of actually playing Wall Shadow and seeing Magical Labyrinth. And also, if you only need 2 Wall Shadow and you manage to get both of them, then every single Magical Labyrinth is dead if both those Wall Shadows are in your hand. So it makes sense to have 3. It really works out. Obviously, we test these decks to make sure that they're viable, that they work out. It works out, it's fine. You get to see Wall Shadow. Then the second to last card is 2 Remove Trap. It's a card they played. They used it on Spellbinding Circle.
Yep. And so this is actually a lot of removal. The fact that there's 2 cards here that remove trap cards is equal to or more than a lot of other characters' decks. And especially the title against Yugi and Joey, there's stuff like, Kunai with Chain, which is with Equip Traps, Spellbinding Circle, and so many other cards that this can be used on.
They could use Yugi's Eye of Truth, etc. So we want to we don't really want to have like a full 3 copies of spell and trap removal.
Because again, we need to balance out that, other players have a way around Gate Guardian, not that he's the end all of the game. Yeah. Despite them saying that despite Yugi saying that Gate Guardians are the same class as Exodia.
Yeah, oh, that was mad funny. They say funny things in the anime.
I mean,
just to try and make everything seem like epic and like it's more powerful than it came before. So they built up Gate Guardian
and the last card, the very last card in the deck completely.
It's 2 Ryoku. You see, one of us got the worst deal out of the 2.
So it just you can transfer half the attack from one monster to another monster, which means you can take it from your opponent's monster, put it on your own, and if you happen to see it in that duel, if you take it from your opponent's monster, put it on your monster, then you attack that opponent's monster. Essentially, you just cancel out the attack loss and gain and just do damage equal to that your
Yeah,
monster.
because if your monster's got like 2,000 attack, the opponent's has 1,000. Opponent's monster loses 500, goes down to 500. Your monster goes up from 2,000 to 2,500, and that's 2,000 damage. Which also means this card is an instant win in main Duelist Kingdom duels if your monster has 2,000 attack or more, which makes it in the 2,000 duel format very, very powerful. I mean, actually, in the show, I think Yui called Riryoku one of the most powerful cards, or an extremely powerful card, or something like that. They made a big deal, and it was like, oh my god, I can't believe they have that card.
I mean, for Duelist Kingdom, yeah, that is pretty powerful.
Yeah. I mean, in regular and 8,000 life points, obviously the card is not that good. But when putting on any monster of yours with 2,000 attack and attacking any opponent's attack position monster means game in Duelist Kingdom format, yeah, it ends up being pretty powerful.
But again, and we know stuff we're saying makes it sound like why not do more life points? But we tried doing this with more life points, and at least the results we got with the way we were playing. So if you play it differently, that's fine. We don't care. The more life points ended up in longer, drawn-out duels by virtue of the fact that you could not attack directly. So the opponent just kept setting endlessly, and you couldn't attack directly ever, and there was no other way to do any kind of damage. It just ended up in a drawn-out game ending in a stalemate.
So, even with 2,000 life points, the game can go like 12, 15 turns of just nothing and passing back and forth oftentimes. So we wanted to mitigate that. But this is a card that helps end games. So it's good to have something like this stop defense. You know, they're very powerful in Duelist Kingdom format. And there are no traps. Obviously, spell and trap cards were not as prevalent in Duelist Kingdom. You'll see that with many of the decks. A lot of characters only have a few traps, no many traps. But that is ParaDox's deck. They have the same deck. Watch the tag duel with them against Joe and Yugi that we put up. Thank you guys so much. Keep watching the rest of the wave. The next video we're gonna put up is Kaiba versus Yugi.
The duel from on top of the castle, not played on top of a castle. I want to clarify.
Just like this is not played in a Labyrinth.
We're not playing on top of a castle.
But anyway, guys, look for the rest of the content to come. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Why'd your enemy games out?